Make sure that cat doesn't sneak out. All right, welcome back to Sheet Metal is Fun. Today we're going to make a square tapering wastebasket. It's got an opening in the top and a bottom in the bottom. That's where those two things should be. Let's go inside and get started. Welcome back to Sheet Metal is Fun. This is Captain Ken reminding you that sheet metal can fly. Take a look at that. Wow, 13 speedometers. My lucky number. And sheet metal is fast. And last but not least, sheet metal is fun. Look at that, a heart-shaped box. Welcome back to Sheet Metal is Fun. I get such a kick out of seeing what you guys have accomplished. You watched our lessons and it affected you in some positive way, and we just couldn't be more grateful. So I think we have either 4 or 5 submissions tonight into our book of Fabulous Fabricators. So if you made something from our channel, send us a picture. sheetmetalisfun@yahoo.com, and this could be you. So this is Daniel. I got notes on the back. Daniel says, I made the heart. It took me about 4 hours to complete, and I had a blast making it, and my wife loves it. Can you see that, baby? Heart-shaped box. Daniel from Texas. Man, nice job, Daniel. You're going in the book. All right, good job, Daniel. Now, we've got Matthew from Utah. I bet if we ever met Matthew, we go, now there's an overachiever. Look at this Matthew. He made the bookshelf, the tool tray, looks like an organizer bin, and a funnel. Come on, Matthew, you're just showing off. And I couldn't be happier. So, Matthew, thank you. Thank you for watching our channel, making these things. They look great. They look great. Good job, Matthew. We've got Stephen from New York made an ash pan for a coal stove. Let's see. My wife of 42 years asked for a new ash pan for our coal stove. Here it is after it had been installed and tested. Look at Stephen getting that honeydew. Your wife says make an ash pan. You know what you do? If you're a bright guy like Stephen, you make an ash pan. I bet he got plenty of gravy on his mashed potatoes. You go, Stephen. We've got, another Stephen. This is Stephen from Hudson, Wisconsin. Stephen had some heavier metal. This is 24 gauge. So far, everything we've made is 26 gauge galvanized, which is about 16 thousandths of an inch, which is roughly the thickness of a standard playing card. So if you just wanted to get an idea of what 16 thousandths of an inch, it's about a standard playing card. But Stephen had some heavier material that he already had laying around, so he made this heavy duty tool tray, and it looks awesome. Good job, Stephen, up there in Wisconsin. And Cliff is Stephen's dad, right, baby? Mm-hmm. So after Stephen made the tool tray, he sent us this picture of a dustpan that his dad Cliff made 42 years ago. His dad Cliff made 2 of these, and Stephen and his brother, and it's probably right here, I don't have it, But anyway, here's what happens when you make something out of sheet metal. It's useful, and think of the emotions that somebody would have every time they use that dustpan or a tool tray that you made and gave them as a gift. You made it from your heart and you gave it to them. I bet you couldn't buy this. You couldn't buy it from Steve. There's Elsa. All right. Our last submission is Francis from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. He sent us, it's such a beautiful project. He sent several photos. This is parallel line development. The way that you can make two radius corners come together. This is how they would have made something easily 100 years ago. This would have been popular in the 1920s, back when labor was cheap and technology was expensive. And now things have flopped over where technology is affordable and labor is very expensive. So when it comes to a handcrafted ornamental item like this, that would be very difficult to find somebody that would be willing to do that. But Francis, as his friends call him, Lucky. Is that good? Can you see that with no glare? Francis, that is beautiful. I mean, Lucky. That's awesome. That looks like I've made a conductor head back when I was an apprentice in the late 70s, and we used parallel line development then. But this is the other photo of Lucky while he's making it, while he's going through the fabrication. Looks like he's doing some soldering and some clamping and holding and assembly, and that thing is awesome. Clearly, Lucky could teach this class if I ever decide to take a night off. Thank you, Lucky, or Francis from Canada. And we are super glad you guys took the time to invest in your life, and you took the time to include us in that investment. We are very grateful. We're going to put you guys right in the book of fabulous fabricators. This is awesome. All right, Lucky from Canada. Steve and the dustpan that his dad Cliff made that he holds very dear to his heart. I didn't say near, I said dear. All right. Stephen and his new Ashpan. It's got ash in it. He already tried it out. Worked. Matthew W. from Utah and his multiple projects. Good job, Matthew. Man, that's awesome. And Daniel from Texas. This is his sweetheart. This is his wife. And there's the heart-shaped box that he made for her. I bet she keeps that forever. People appreciate handcrafted items because they know you did it with love, and they know you invested in it, and they can feel that investment of love whenever they pick it up. All right, so speaking of picking it up, thank you guys for your fabulous fabricators. Like I said, if you make something, sheetmetalisfun@yahoo.com. Send us a picture. This could be you. It really could be you. Today, we are making a square tapering, because what fun would a square waste paper basket be? So what I've done here is I left one side blank. One, I put a cross break on it. One has this, maybe you would call it a sunburst. There's a crease here, one here, here, and there. And this side is the scratched up, boogered up side. So don't look at this one very much. Let's look at smooth, industrial, creative sunshine, sunrise. Yeah. So this has a hem around the top. This is 10 inches square, tapering down to an 8-inch square. And the bottom is recessed because the way we're going to put the bottom into the waste paper basket, the bottom has a downturned flange on all four sides. And we make it this way so that the bottom cannot fall out of the waste paper basket. You just stay right there. I'm going to flip this over. And so the sides come over and are folded down. And that's how it captures that upturned flange of the bottom. So the more pressure you put on the bottom, the deeper it goes and the more secure it becomes. So that way the bottom isn't likely to come out. Well, you couldn't come out. And we're also going to introduce you tonight to the Coffin Lock. So back in the old days, a pine box was the bottom of the line. The next one up from a pine box was a sheet metal box. So some people, they would go to the local blacksmith or sheet metal worker and they would make them a coffin of sheet metal. And this lock right here was the lock that they would use around the perimeter of the top. And so the nice thing about the Coffin Lock is it gives you a really nice seam. There's no sharp edges. You could even let your cat come over. Hey, Elsa, you want to look at that? No? All right. So this is a Coffin Lock. So we're going to introduce you to the Coffin Lock tonight, and we're going to make a very simple tapering square wastebasket. So, boy, that thing's pretty, isn't it? I'm going to put it right over there for inspiration. Now, come on in and let's look at the blueprint for what we're making tonight. It is a tapering square wastebasket. It's 10 by 10 at the top. Look at that. Does that look like that? 10 by 10 at the top. It's 10 inches tall, and it's 8 by 8 at the bottom. So there are two ways that we could make this wastebasket. We could make it in 4 pieces. We could make it in 4 pieces, and we could seam all 4 pieces together with a coffin lock on every corner. And so if we were going to do that, our cut size would be 11 inches by 10. 11 because it's 10 inches tall and there's a 1/2 inch hem at each end. So that's the 11. The 10 is the width across the top of the basket, waste paper basket. And so if we were going to do it this way, we would also have to add, to complete the coffin lock, man, we'll fix that in post, won't we, hon?
Sure.
All right.
Except
Nobody.
there is no post.
No post. Okay, so there's a 1/2 inch, and a coffin lock is a 1 inch allowance. So if we wanted to make our wastebasket in 4 pieces, there would be 4 pieces like this. 1/2 inch on one side, 1 inch on this side, so we'd have make a coffin lock. And if you made all 4 of them the same, you would just have 4 coffin locks, and every corner on the wastebasket would look like this. But what we're going to do tonight, we are going to make it in 1. So this is, I'm going to take this. I'm going to show you what the pattern would look like if we were going to make it in 4 pieces. And the only reason I'm doing this, it's an exercise, because so much of what we're doing is an opportunity to exercise your ability to picture something when it's flat. When it's flat, you had to look at this organizer bin and you had to deconstruct it. You had to imagine what did it look like when it was a flat piece of metal. So some of what we're doing is working on that skill. So since we have red snips, so this is what this piece right here is. This piece, our cut size was 11 by 10, ½ inch hem at the top, ½ inch at the bottom, ½ inch 90, and a 1 inch coffin lock over here. And just in case, I guess I have to say it every time I cut, don't go to the end of your snips unless you're notching. So what I want to do is show you two different ways that something can be developed. And then you can choose the one that you like the most. This is the tool tray we made. This was one of our recent lessons. We added a drawer to the bottom of our tool tray. One of the things we do after we cut something, look at this, a knife sharpener. And that makes a real good deburring tool. So since these sides only slope 1 inch, it's 10 here and it's 8 here. So that means each one of these sides sloped an inch. Now, if we were working to a critical height, then we would have to use the to get the hypotenuse. On this one, it only tapers an inch, and it turned out to be less than a 16th. It was less than a 16th of an inch. But let's say this sloped a lot. Then we would have to figure out how long this piece would need to be in order to finish up the height. So let me see. It only slopes an inch, so that was less than a 16th. This is the pattern. But if it did slope more, then this piece would have to be longer. If it sloped out more, it would have to be longer to still end up with the 10-inch finish that we want to finish up with. And we're going to cover that in a future episode. So this is one way that we could make this. There it is. That's our wastebasket. But like I want to do, I want to try to always show you two ways to do something. So what we're going to do is we're going to develop this pattern. You see, this is a bend and another bend. So this is called a wrapper. So we made it all in a wrapper with one coffin lock. So we're going to start this project. This is a ½ inch hem around the top. We're going to start this with a ½ inch scribe. This is 26 gauge galvanized. I made it out of galvanized because look at how sparkly and beautiful that is. Look at that. Ooh. But on the real shiny galvanized, it's difficult to see the lines that I'm making. So we're using 26 gauge. This type of material is called bonderized, after somebody's name. Probably somebody named Bond. Could be Bonder. So what I want to do is we're going to develop this in a wrapper. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off. Let me show you what we're going to make. Here's our sheet. There's the edge of our sheet, and then we scribed a ½ inch line. Now what we're going to end up doing is there's our 10, There's our 8. There's our 1/2 inch line. Now we're going to do another one of these attached to here. So that means this is going to go like this. Here. 10, 8, excuse me. Sorry about that. Hey, people all over are going to watch this. So let's do another one here. And then we're going to do the 4th one. So we're going to make this all in one piece. So we're going to start with our first drawing that's on this baseline. Then we're going to duplicate one here, duplicate this one, and then that one. I'm going to show you how that works. So we're going to use a pair of dividers that I keep right here next to my heart. All right, so this is what we're going to make. It's a 10 by 8, and it's 10 inches tall. So we can start with a line at 10 and a half, 10 and a half. Why 10 and a half? Because we have a 1/2 inch allowance down here, and we're making a 10-inch tall wastebasket. Now I'm going to make this line. Now this is 10 inches here, so we want to come, let's go 11 inches from the end of our sheet to give us plenty of room to get this wing right here. So we're going to go 11, and since we know that this is 10, we can put our second mark at 21. 11 plus the 10. Let's go ahead and mark that 10. Now we're going to use our combination square. We talked earlier in one of our lessons, try to know all the allowances that you have in your shop. This is 1.25 inches. If you had a framing square, this is 2 inches. This is 1.5 inches. And so the more familiar you are with the tools you're using, the more valuable they will be to you. So now we have these two marks 10 inches apart. But this tapers down to 8. So I'm going to put the edge of my combination square on the 10, but we know this is a 1-inch blade. Now I'm going to put it over here. I'm putting one edge on the 10. This is 1 inch. This is 1 inch wide. We don't even have to check. We know we started off with 10 and we subtracted an inch here and we subtracted an inch there. We don't have to check, but look at this. There it is. 8 inches. And we got that, we made that easy just by knowing how wide our tool was. So now we are gonna, I'm gonna mark these. That's the bottom of our wastebasket. Top of our wastebasket. And just so we can keep track of ourselves, we're going to circle each one of these prick marks. And then we're going to mark them. A, B, C, and D. Now, we've just laid this one out right here. What I want to do is make another one just like it right next to it and attached, so that this will become a bend right where the sides are attached and they're made of one piece. So here's how we're going to do that. This is a type of triangulation. So I'm going to put one leg of my divider on A, the other one on B, It's 10 inches. And I'm just going to make a scribe out here. I'm hoping with this bonderized, I'm hoping you guys can see that scribe. Now, we've got that. Let's go up here to C and D. We know this is 8 inches. Let's make a scribe out there. So that's going to go out there. And while we have this already set up, one there. So the nice thing about this type of pattern copying, so I'm taking A to B, which is 10 inches, and I'm going to duplicate it over here. Going to make a scribe. Now we're going to go A to D, which is, and this is a great way to double check your work, A to D should be the same as B, C. And there we have it, same. So if these things were different, if these dimensions were different, we would know we had to go back and do a little bit of detective work. So now we have A to D. Let's take that number, and it's going to intersect right here. Let's take that same setting, which would be B, C. There's our point of intersection. Let's go ahead and prick punch that. In one of these lessons, I'm going to show you how valuable this method is if you're making a large round cone. So, let's go back and do this. Same thing here. Let's prick mark those points of intersection. And I'm just going to circle them. A lot of this metal sits in our rack, and when we slide a new one next to the one that's already in the rack, sometimes we'll put scratches in the material. And then, what a goofy goober you are if you look at a scratch instead of an actual scribe. So let's go back. Take our A to B, which we know is 10 inches. So what we're doing now, we've duplicated this one here, we've duplicated that one. We're going to build the very last panel. So we're going to go back, take our A to B, that's 10 inches. Let's go here, scribe a line out there. Now let's take our 8, which is the base of our wastebasket. Scribe that out there. Now we're going to take our diagonal, A to D, which we've already determined is the same as C to B. So now we're going to take A to D, and we're going to do this one the same way. Let's mark the point of intersection. And also, we're going to circle them just in case we really get going and we lose track of where we were. Okay, so now let's fill in those lines. I'm wondering, do you think if I fill it in with pencil it'd be more visible? Let's try it. We haven't done that. So let's go here. Here's our original side. Look at that. There's another one. I like that.
Yeah, the pencil's showing up really nice.
Does it work good?
Uh-huh.
Man, look at us. Go, baby. Go, go, go. Yeah, the bonderized, it holds the pencil mark where you couldn't, it'd be very difficult to make a noticeable mark in galvanized. So the wastebasket we're making tonight has a 10-inch top and 8-inch base, but you can, if you make one, you don't have to follow our pattern, because really, when you really understand, when things are really clicking, you should be able to take these principles and apply them to your project. And maybe you need a wastebasket in a very specific location, and then I want you to be able to make, off of the knowledge that you've gained here, I want you to be able to make the wastebasket that applies to your dimensions. So this is looking good, baby. Look at that pencil line on bonderized. All right, so here's our original. So what we did is we took these dimensions, copied it here, and left it attached. Made another copy here, and it's attached, and made our fourth panel right there, and that's also attached. All right, so what I did when you guys weren't looking, wow, you know what, it was like time lapse. So I cut this out. And now let's cut the top off here. I like the offset snips because I think it gets your hand into a good position. And but the snips don't care. If you like to use them upside down, they don't care. Look at that. Never go to the end of your snips unless you're notching. Alright, just to show that it doesn't make a difference, let's cut this one this way. As you open the snip, you move the snip forward. Like here, we don't want to see this. Ay, can you? Ow, man. All right. I can. Yeah. Yeah. That's stuff they make scary movies out of. So what I'm going to do is, now we've got it cut out. So what I did is I took, here's back to our original piece. Here's this one. There's the one we duplicated. This one, this one. I added a 1/2 inch to the top, which will be the bottom. I added a 1/2 inch here. And now we're going to go back around and let's notch this. Coffin lock. And notice whenever we notch this, we want to notch it to where the snip covers the piece. So we're going to go there. And then we're going to make sure that that piece of scrap goes down. That was the right way to do it. Here's the wrong way. I feel like we do this every time. But you see this right here? Once I squeeze this snip, that piece could, if I can see it, it can see my eyes, and we don't want to show it our eyes. So we're always going to make sure that we use our snips in a way that when the piece is done being cut, it drops away from our face. This is our coffin lock side, and I'm holding this one so it didn't try to sneak up on us. Then let's do this. Let's do this. Just giving it a real nice wide notch. Man, you're getting good, hon. Look at that. Look at that. That's teamwork right there. All right, right now, since this project is very fresh in our mind, let's go ahead and mark it. We're going to hem up, or we could mark it this way. X is always U. This one's going to be a coffin lock. And that looks like this. That's the inside. So we're going to put him up, typical 4. So I don't have to go to each one and write it down, since all 4 of them get the same thing. Hem up, typical of 4. We're going to do up here, up, up. This gets a 90 up. This is going to go into the coffin lock. And we're going to do him up, typical of 4. All 4 of these are going to get hems up. And so we're going to try to do some of this with some of the tools that you may have at home. Oh, one of the things I want to show you is you can get these online. We make all of our own because we decide what depth we want to make it. This is 1 inch. But you may find it online under folding tool or drive turner. So here's one that we've made. Here's one that we made. It's a little longer. Take a look at this, hon. Look at this little selection. Here's one with a handle on it. Here's a long one. Here's a medium. Here's a heavy duty one. Here's a stainless steel one. I'm going to hold that still. Can you see that? So what I've done is I folded this piece around, and then I welded in a piece that sets the depth. So when I slide this, if I were to slide this onto the end, it hits that stop that I've welded in there. In this case, a 1/2 inch. This is 1 inch on one side and 1 1/8 on the other. See the offset in there? This is 1 inch. On some of the roofing we do, we have to slide this up and fold it around, and it would be hard to do with snips. This is the same thing. This is also when we do metal roofing. This is the one we do at the top, and we can bend it up. This is the same thing, only really long. All right, so what I want to do is let's go over to the break and let's put our coffin lock in. And then the rest of it, we're going to bend right here. We're going to bend it by hand. You want to follow me over to the brake? All right, this is our 10-foot hand brake. We're going to take our waste basket, push it in here. Our first bend on a coffin lock is always the entire allowance, which on this coffin lock is 1 inch. So we're going to put it in here. And you already saw with the bending tools that we have out there, we could have bent this by hand, and you could do it at home. I'm going to bend that up 90. The front of our brake is a 1/2 inch. There's the 90. I'm going to push it in here all the way till it stops, which is a 1/2 inch. Coming around all the way around till it stops, 135 degrees. That's a 90 plus 45. Now, that's what we have so far. You got that? Okay. I'm just going to put this in here and flatten it out. Now you see what we have. All I've done is flatten that out. Now I'm going to push it back in and flatten it out. So now you see what we have. We have a 1/2 inch going back and then a 1/2 inch coming back out. And it's going to give us a flush finish out here on the end. Coffin Lock. I like the Coffin Lock for this application. You're going to see it when it goes together. It just makes such a smooth corner. So this is the one that's going to go into the Coffin Lock. So we're going to bend that up 90. All right, let's go back over to the bench. We're going to bend the rest of this up by hand. I'll see you over at the bench. We're back over at the bench. We just left the break. We bent the Coffin Lock. We bent the 1/2 inch 90. That's going to go into the Coffin Lock. Now we're back over here to our folding tool. We call it a drive turner. Some of these things are regional. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on there, and then what you got to do is push down against the bench and fold it over, just all the way over till it stops. And you want it to be a little bit open. So the same thing again. That went so good. Same thing again. Pushing down against the bench, over till it stops. I don't even have to tell you how many more times we're going to do this. Okay, we're going to do it 2 more times. Over till it stops. Last one. All right, I sure like that. Boy, that's beautiful. And let's see, don't move. Don't move. Rubber mallet. I'm just going to bend these over a little bit. Not too much. Making sure it's still open. That hem is going to go against the floor. Now we're going to do the same thing on the top. I think I'm going to use my longer one. Let's try that. Okay, longer. Nope, that one's not deep enough. And we didn't... Man, you think this one's long enough, huh? All right. I know how to take no for an answer, by golly. All right, so I'm just making sure that I'm staying on this bend line. So what I'm going to do is get this over here pretty far, and then I'm going to, before I go too far, I'm going to go to our, and I'm going to go a little bit. Then we're going to put this back on. I'm going to go a little bit more. Then we're going to add a little bit more. You got to sneak up on it. If you try to do it all in one, you're going to booger it up. Nobody likes that. Nice and easy. We can do as many passes as it takes to get it where we want it. You'll notice I left it a little open. We're going to circle back around to that here in just a second. Pushing down against the bench, go up a little ways. Come back over here. I have to make sure that wherever this tool, the folding tool, stopped, I have to make sure that I overlap that, or else that crease, where the two tools transition, become more pronounced. Keeping this over the table. If I put this out here, if I put it out here and I miss, then I'm putting myself in a bad spot. So just make sure that's over the table, and then if your tool slips off, then you're still in good shape. I bet we could probably use this tool and just keep sneaking up on it. What do you think? Oh, I like that. Now we're going to bend this over a little bit. Not all the way yet, but close. Bending it on the line. What I'm doing is I'm picking up the tool and applying pressure because it's where I want it to be. Now we're going to overlap the tools. And you got to sneak up on it. If I just took this and folded it all the way over, there'd be a very pronounced transition right here between where we switch from one tool to the other. And we want to avoid that. We can't impress our friends and neighbors with a pronounced transition. Come on. Yeah, this is working good. So what I'm doing is just making sure I overlap wherever the tool ended. Make sure I overlap that. I like it. Not going all the way. Don't flatten it all the way. Back to here. On the line. Little bit of up pressure. That locks it in place. Give it down to the table. Give it a little bit of a bend. Overlap the tool. Don't get greedy. Don't try to do it all at once. Okay. We're going to leave the bottom hem open. I want that one to stay open for now, but the top one, the best hem that you can make is not that. You know what, let's do this. No. Here's what a hem should look like. A hem should look like a teardrop, and we pick up a lot of rigidity from this teardrop shape. Right? Oh yeah. So now that we've spun the fitting around the wastebasket, I just want to watch. I'm going to watch this and watch this hem get a little tighter. always watch, like, see this upturned flange right here. Always make sure when you're swinging a hammer, you're not putting yourself in a bad spot. So I'm going to switch over here. See how we've made a teardrop? We're touching here, but we've got a nice wide teardrop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's do 3 more of those. So we brought that over until it touched. Right here in the oh yeah, not in the no. So you can see, look how thick this is right here because we folded it into a teardrop. I don't know if I've got... Alright, so what we're going to do, I'm going to tap these around.
What's that doing?
So what that did is that evened out this transition. Sometimes since we're bending it by hand, we may have bent more here and less here. And so that these 2 points didn't meet exactly where we wanted them to meet. So the nice thing about what we have here, 26 gauge, it's resilient and it bends by hand. So what we're going to do is, now that we have a hem and a notch, and these hems and that notch, we can go back to our bender and let's just put it on that line. All I want to do is focus the energy of the bend. So let's do that again. So I'm just holding the edge of my bender on the line, and that's just going to give us a nice even bend. One more time. All right, look at that. So here's where the coffin lock comes in. The coffin lock comes around and then goes back and then makes a U-turn and come back. So I don't know if you're gonna, are you gonna be able to, can you, if I hold this right here, can you focus on that corner right there? Can you see what's going on there? Maybe this one will be more visible if we go down here. So what we're going to do now, the last part, well, the next to last, our bottom is last, is we're going to put this 1/2 inch flange into the coffin lock. And if once we get it started, it'll go the whole way. So I don't want to see anybody pushing on a screwdriver, because whenever it slips off, you'll have hands like a 67-year-old sheet metal guy. And for some of you folks out there, that's not a good look. So what I want to do is find a spot that I can enter with no pushing. Can you see where I'm at here, hon?
That's a good view.
So did you see what I just did?
Mm-hmm.
I never did push. I did all that with twisting. So there never was a time that my screwdriver was going to come off and try to hurt my fingernail. So I want to make sure you get a good look at what's going on where the coffin lock meets the hem. And so we only had to go a little ways, because once we get it started, It's going to go in there real nice. Okay, are you ready? I want you to make sure. Can you see how that's what's going on right there? So this downturned flange went into the coffin lock. Isn't that a nice corner? So on the inside there are no sharp edges. On the outside you get a really awesome edge. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to lock in the top with a rivet. This is a 1/8 diameter rivet. It's an 1/8 by an 1/8, so it's an 1/8 inch diameter and an 1/8 inch grip. So we got to make sure we drill the hole in the right place. So what we want to do is make sure that this flange cannot come back out of the coffin lock. Don't make a mistake and drill the rivet here. Right, that wouldn't do anything. So I think we're going to put that rivet. We know the coffin lock is a 1/2 inch, so we know we have a 1/2 inch of engagement. Let's go 1/4 inch. So we just went through 1, 2, 3 thicknesses. That's the reason that took a little bit there. All right, so now the way the coffin lock is made, this piece cannot travel this way because it's going to hit that shoulder on the coffin lock. And once we put that rivet in there, it can't come back out this way. So that corner is beautiful and nice, and it's all, that part's awesome. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the bottom. Our wastebasket is 8 by 8. There's 8 by 8. So the way we're going to make the bottom is we're going to rub our microphone for good luck first. Then I'm going to find my pencil right here next to my heart. There it is. It's like a letter from home. All right, let's make the bottom. And it's going to have a 45-degree notch. And so what I mean by that is it's going to be 8 inches by 8 inches. And then it's going to have a 1/2 inch flange all the way around it. So there's our half, there's our half, another half, another half. Now we're going to notch this 45 degrees right across that intersection, right across that corner. Right where the corner comes together, that's where we're going to notch that. All right, so that means if our bottom is 8 by 8 and we're adding a 1/2 inch on both sides, we're going to cut us a piece 9 by 9. So here's our bottom. It's 9 by 9. So that is 8 by 8 with a 1/2 inch flange all the way around. Let's take the scribe that we made in one of our other lessons. Oh, you know what? Look at this. This is the really tricky scribe. We showed you how to make this one in the grab bag of tools video. So let's put that 1/2 inch flange all the way around. All right, got it. So now let's go to that 45-degree notch. We're going to cut this right across that intersection. Notice I cut it so that the drop went to the floor. Drop to the floor. And not, those were all good. Here's wrong. See this? Now, when I complete this cut, I can see this whole piece, so it has a chance to come up here and ruin the rest of my evening. So, one of the reasons that we notch this at a 45 is because we don't need to bend this up in a box and pan break. This one. Let's go ahead and bend this up right here. Pushing down against the table. Making sure I'm lined up on the line where I want it. A little bit of upward pressure. Push down against the table. Last one. Upward pressure down to the table. Now, the reason that we left our bottom hems a little open is what we're going to do now. Can you see in there? Oh, that's a good view. I was hypnotized. Okay, so now we're going to put our bottom in with these flanges down. So this downturned flange will lock into the upturned hems. Yeah, all right. We're looking good. Last one. So there's the bottom with its downturned flanges engaging the upturned hems of the bottom. So the reason we've done this does a couple of things. We have a nice rolled edge down against the floor, won't scratch the floor, and the other one is the harder you push, if you put something heavy in your wastebasket, all it does is increase your engagement. So there's no way the bottom, you can't press the bottom out of the wastebasket because all you do is increase the engagement into the hem. So can you see how that went together, baby? That's the reason we left these a little bit open. If we get those over too flat, then when you go to put the bottom in, you're going to have some interference. I just want to double check that. I like it, like it, like it, love it. Okay, so just in case, now we're going to put one rivet in each one of these corners. So let's take, I'm going to make this, let's just make this piece of scrap right here. See what I got right here? Here's my bender. let's do a half. Let's bend this one up. Okay. So I got a 1/2 inch 90 and a 1 inch 90. Let's do this one right here. I've got a piece of 1/2 inch plywood on here. Look at that. Woo-wee. This is going to be great. Anytime we're drilling, you always want to be careful of any part of yourself that you may run into. So with this upturned flange, I'm just going to sit our wastebasket on there. I'm going to measure here. The bottom is 8. So I'm going to put a mark at 4. We know that the hem and the flange are both 1/2 inch. So I'm going to push this down. And I'm going to hold that board, which that's pressing down against the bottom. Let's put a rivet in that. They're not going to pay us more if we do it the hard way, so let's make it easy on ourselves. Load that tool, ready for the next one. Now let's go to the opposite side. So we got this one in. Let's go to the opposite side and we'll do the same thing. We're just going to double check the bottom. Make sure we like it. And we do. The base is 8 inches, so we're going to put a mark at 4. This thing is too long. More gooder. All right. Make sure our base is down, our bottom. I'm holding this board. Let's drill this hole. I like that. I'm going to grab 2. I don't think this one could be wrong, but just in case, it's good and tight. We know we have 8. Let's go 4. Holding down the bottom, keeping our hands out of harm's way. last one. Then we're going to take our file. File's only cut on the push. You could pull it if you want to hold it by the side without a handle, but file's only cut on the push. Just for fun, let's go ahead and put one more. Let's put one more rivet in this, and let's make sure we put it below so it's not visible from the top. So we're going to make sure we stay below the base. This is so nice. Can we keep this one, hon?
Sure.
All right. So all we've done is we've added a rivet, and we made sure that it was below so we don't have any visible rivets. And there you have it. That is a square tapering wastebasket. You could make yours taller. You can make it shorter. You can change this. You saw how we did all these. We bent this by hand. You could add this in by hand, or if you have a brake, you could add it in. You could add this design. You could go with the really scratched up side like this one, or you can use plain like we did here. So there you have it. We have a square tapering wastebasket with a bottom that can't come out. And if you wanted to, if you thought whatever you were going to putting in here may contain some liquid, you could seal this with polyurethane. Or if you've watched our heart-shaped box video, you could solder it and you could make it liquid tight. So there you have it. 10 by 10, tapering down to an 8 by 8 with a bottom that you can't push out. Man, anybody that thinks sheet metal is not fun has definitely never watched one of these lessons. We are so grateful that you guys stopped by. Thanks for spending your time with us. We appreciate it. This is a labor of love. We enjoy sharing with you, and thanks for hanging in there. Sheet metal is fun. Waste basket. If you make one, send us a picture. sheetmetalisfun@yahoo.com. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Sheet metal is fun. See you later.